Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Morgan Adams is a dynamic and transformative holistic sleep coach dedicated to helping women overcome sleepless nights without depending on sleep medications. Her innovative sleep toolkit not only improves sleep quality, but also helps women rebuild a positive relationship with sleep, leading to more relaxed and fulfilling days. Having personally battled insomnia and reliance on prescription sleep aids for nearly a decade, Morgan deeply understands the critical role sleep plays in overall quality of life. Her journey includes triumphing over breast cancer twice, experiences that have fueled her advocacy for a lifestyle centered on disease prevention and holistic health. Morgan's approach goes beyond mere sleep improvement, embracing a comprehensive view of well-being. Thank you so much, Morgan, for joining me. I'm so excited to talk about sleep because for me, sleep is medicine. That is my medicine. If I'm sick with my family, like, let's go to bed. That is the
Yes,
most important, right?
yes. Sleep is medicine. I'm right there with you on that one, Gina. It's the best medicine I've ever found.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because literally we just had COVID not that long ago. I know I was sick before. We were supposed to meet once before, and that was like food poisoning. I had eaten some lettuce, and I slept literally all day, 24 hours. I never slept 24 hours in my life before. And then we recently got COVID, my husband and I, and then one of my stepson. And then my stepson was better, but of course we were sick and we were just literally on the couch like zombies, like we couldn't move, we couldn't do anything. So I was like putting some sound frequency music on. And I was just like, oh, please help me. I don't feel good. But I would love for you just to go ahead. We're going to start off with talking about sleep myths. What are some common sleep myths that people have that you can actually go ahead and share?
Yeah, well, there are a couple main ones that I think permeate a lot. So the biggest one that I hear about is I must get 8 hours of sleep. So the National Sleep Foundation recommends that adults 18 to 64 get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. However, when you look in the fine print of their recommendations, you'll see that they say 6 to 10 hours may be appropriate for some people. So that's quite a bit of latitude. So what I like to share with people is that, you need to really find what I call your sleep sweet spot, really find the amount of sleep that is conducive for you. And it may be 8, it may be 7, it may be 6.5, but it's not necessarily always 8 for the same person. And the thing that gets us into trouble about that, quite honestly, is that so the message honestly is meant to be shared for people as a public service announcement. So to really encourage people who are burning the candle at both ends to maybe do away with 5 hours a night, or maybe to reconsider their sleep habits, which is fine, no problem with that. But who ends up hearing these messages are mostly the people who have insomnia. And those people are really giving their full effort to getting sleep, but are struggling and may not be reaching that 7 to 8 hours. Quite often they do, but sometimes they're not. And they start to panic and think they're broken or there's something wrong with them. And what can end up happening is the more pressure you put on yourself to sleep 8 hours, if you have insomnia, the more it could backfire and potentially make your sleep worse because you're so anxious. So bottom line is sleep is like a shoe, it's like sleep numbers are like a shoe size. So, or a calorie need. We all have our own individual ones, and it's not going to be cut and dried 8 hours for everybody. So,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes total sense because my husband says, oh, he was at a pattern where he would go to bed at 9 o'clock. This is before we met, or before we got married, sorry. And then he would tell me I would need to go to bed at 9 and then wake up at a certain time. He would need his 8 hours sleep. For me, 3 hours of sleep sometimes is okay. 5 hours sleep sometimes is okay. 6 hours. It depends. And I still feel good. It's just I can see what you're talking about. Like people are like thinking about, oh, I must get this much sleep. And that's what probably prevents them from sleeping well because they're thinking about it and their mind is just thinking, thinking, thinking. Yeah, so I used to suffer a lot from insomnia. And that's because I was drinking so much, thinking that it was actually going to help me sleep. And so I notice a lot of people tend to go to sleep aids. They'll go ahead and drink. Why do you think people gravitate towards sleep aids? And what are some potential dangers or drawbacks that you've noticed from taking it for prolonged periods?
Yeah, well, I have personal experience taking sleep aids. So I was dependent on Ambien for 8 years. And here's why I think they're prescribed so often. It's because if somebody's having trouble sleeping, their most typical action is to go to their primary care doctor. The primary care doctor, being well-meaning as they are, typically has about 2 hours of sleep science behind his or her belt. And because they're really not well versed in how to deal with sleep issues, they will quite often pull out their prescription pad and write a prescription for a sleep aid. And that's not always bad because sometimes there's a crisis situation, there's a death or a divorce, and somebody does need a pill to get them to sleep. But the problem with the way a lot of doctors prescribe sleeping medications is that they don't build in any kind of exit strategy for the patient. They don't say, okay, you're going to be taking, this pill for this many weeks, for 4 weeks or whatever. What they tend to do is give them like a refill after refill. And I've had several clients, unfortunately, be dependent on Ambien for 10, 20 years because their doctor never gave them that exit strategy and just kept them on it, which is really unfortunate. And I can speak for myself. When I was dependent on Ambien, it did actually work for me in terms of like it got me to sleep more quickly because it was usually taking like 2 hours for me to fall asleep. But the problem was I was incredibly groggy the next day. I really didn't feel like I was actually awake till close to noon. And it did start to create problems with my job because I was in a position where I had to like write on the spot, like write a press release or whatever. And I remember just there were times when they were like, okay, write this in 10 minutes or whatever. And I was just frozen at my keyboard. And they were like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got the residual grogginess. And as I've become more versed in sleep, I discovered that 80% of people have next day side effects from sleeping pills, such as grogginess, trouble waking up, foggy headedness. So there are, quite a few issues with them. And I hope that answered the question. I kind of went on a tangent,
Yeah,
but
no,
I
but
could,
I
I
love
could talk on
tangents.
that.
I love tangents, by the way, so I'm all good with that.
Yeah, I mean, I could really talk on that topic for a long time, but I think that the main takeaway is they do have their place, but we have to be cognizant of how long we take them because the package insert on in the pills does say they're meant for short-term use up to 4 weeks. So we really need to be mindful about how they're used.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories before where they just don't even remember walking around, and after they've taken some type of sleep aid and they're just walking around the house and like a zombie or something that people have been told me this in the past. I'm like, ah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
scary.
Yeah, I actually had several instances where I ate after I took the pills and, wasn't 100% aware of eating. People will get in the car and drive. People will do dangerous things. And they ended up putting a black box warning on this class of sleeping pills in 2019 because of this reason, because so many people were hurting themselves and others. So it's really, I mean, we sometimes kind of laugh it off because eating is not like a huge hazard, or shopping on the internet like when you're not aware is not ideal, but it's not really that harmful. But like when you get behind the wheel of a car, that could
Yeah,
be hurting really yourself or another person. So
right. Yeah, and what are some natural alternatives that you would suggest?
well, there are a lot of supplements out there, but it's really kind of an individual thing. Like some work for some people, some don't, and there are just so many on the market. But in reality, if you do have insomnia, supplements don't really have a lot of evidence behind them as far as efficacy in getting rid of the insomnia. There really needs to be more substantive tools, like, for example, CBTI. It's a tool that I work with. It's more helpful for insomnia. But if you're just having occasional sleeping issues, then I don't see any issue at all with getting a sleep supplement. I mean, there's like magnesium, which I don't really consider a sleep supplement. I kind of consider that more of like a wellness supplement. There's L-theanine, GABA, valerian root. Sometimes people take melatonin. The data is, still out on that. That's really more used for circadian rhythm issues. But speaking of melatonin, you do need to be careful about the sourcing of it, because what they have found is, in a study that they looked at the shelves, that they pulled bottles up from the shelves, and they found that there were certain melatonin products that had either more or less melatonin in them, which could be potentially an issue, because if you have a lot of melatonin in your system, it could produce next day grogginess. So you have to really be careful, not just with melatonin supplements, but with supplements all around, and just make sure they're from a better source. Like, I wouldn't recommend the Costco brand, not to trash Costco, but just the big box stores. They
Yeah.
typically don't have the best ingredients, and the best quality.
Yeah, I agree. I stay clear from that section. Like, oh,
Yeah.
no, thank you. Now, now we hear a lot about screens, right? Screens disrupting our
Yes.
sleep. Can you actually talk a little bit about this topic? Because I am guilty sometimes looking at my phone. I stopped watching TV before bed, which is a good thing because I used to watch like the news before I went to bed. What was wrong with me? Nightmares, nightmares all night. But
Yes.
are screens truly the primary villain, or or is there more to the story, do you think?
There's more to the story. So it's a nuanced topic. So my take on screens is that, and there's some data that came out recently that kind of backs this up. The blue light on screens is not as impactful on our sleep as we once thought. Um, I do, though, typically recommend, or suggest to people that they might want to try blue blocking glasses if they're going to be on screens at night. But what I think is just as important as the blue screen is the content that you're watching. So you mentioned watching the news before bed. That's a perfect example of content that's too stimulating or scary or thought-provoking. That could negatively impact your sleep. People are often shocked, Gina, to find out that I, as a sleep coach, watch TV every night as my evening wind down routine. But here's how I do it without it ruining my sleep. So number one, I watch it on a regular TV that's fairly far from me. I do have some extra protection with the blue blocking glasses. And I also choose content that is not stimulating. So a comedy, a cooking show, or something that's very light, and you kind of know that there's not going to be like something violent or scary. So I do think there's also this concept of passive versus active media. So we want to maybe back off on the active media, and that would be things like social media, gaming. Those would be active, because and texting as well, because you're going back and forth, potentially engaging. Whereas the passive is like TV or a meditation or breath work app. So we just really have to be cognizant of what we're using the screens for and the intention behind it, I think, more than the actual blue light itself.
That makes total sense because I have a game called Bubble Witch on my phone, and one night I was like kind of restless. I don't know, my muscles were hurting. I was kind of like, "Ugh." I'm like, let me see if I can just play a game. I was playing a game, but I swear when I was done with the game, I put it away and it was dark, but I was closing my eyes. I literally can see the game still playing in my head. I'm like, oh, that was not a good idea. Gina. Why did you do this to yourself? And all I can see were those blue bubbles and those red bubbles and those little owls that we have to help escape. But anyway, yeah. So, but then when I go ahead and put like some healing frequency on, when I'm trying to do maybe some breath work, like using those apps that are beneficial, I sleep good. So I totally
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying. I've experienced both sides.
Yes.
Now, apart from the screens, are there any other like technological devices or habits that might be compromising to our sleep quality?
I think those probably are the main ones as far as like technology. I mean, there's some other habits that people get into that are not great for their sleep. I mean, alcohol, we can delve into that. Um, Eating too late, potentially exercising too late, too hard, could all be disrupting our sleep. So, there are lots and lots of reasons that our sleep can get disrupted. But I think that definitely, getting I think there's this term called revenge bedtime procrastination. Have you heard of this term before?
No, I haven't.
So it can be an issue with people. So essentially what this is, it's when people kind of binge or maybe shows at night, or they get engaged with like texting or what social media or whatever, because they feel like they've gone all day without any time for themselves. And now that the kids are in bed or they have free time, they're like, this is my time and I'm going to do whatever the heck I want with it. And so what they end up doing is they kind of override their own prescribed bedtime. They override their own sleepiness cues and keep engaging until it's, midnight, 1 o'clock. And it's like they know better, but they're just sort of like their inner teenage rebel is at the wheel, right? So that tends to be a problem with a lot of people, as far as like disrupting their sleep and making them feel bad the next day. For sure. They don't feel well the next day after that.
I know here you're thinking you have like a time for yourself, but then you do get distracted with social media and different things that you're doing at night. But is there anything that we should be including in our nighttime routine?
The nighttime routine is something that I think is incredibly personal. I actually have a free mini course on evening and morning routines that people can check out. But, I think that what you really just need to find is something that is calm, pleasant, and relaxing for you. And that really varies from person to person. But some examples of things that work for a lot of people, not everybody, but like reading, meditating, breath work, stretching, crafts, talking to your partner, or but then, with the talking with your partner thing, there needs to be a little bit of a caveat to that, because I've had several clients report back to me that they had like an altercation, not a physical altercation, but just like a verbal altercation with their partner before bed, because they were talking about issues that were heated. So if you're going to talk to your partner, I would suggest maybe, keeping it light, keeping it like, how was your day? What are a few things you were grateful for today? Keeping it really positive. And not to say that you shouldn't delve into the serious issues with your partner, but like maybe table those for much earlier in the day or in the morning, so that you can prevent any kind of discord before bed. That can impact your sleep. It's hard to sleep when you're emotionally riled up, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, you don't want to be all angry at each other
Yeah.
and try to sleep. One's going to be on the couch then, I think. And then they won't get
Yes.
good sleep because their back going to be hurting the next
Right.
day.
Exactly.
No, speaking of like quality versus quantity, there's that debate. It's the quality of sleep that I get versus how long I sleep. How much sleep should we be aiming for? I mean, I know you talked about everybody's different, but for your personal experience, so how much hours of sleep do you get? And why would quality be more significant?
Yeah. Well, I think quality wins out in the race, over quantity. I would rather see my client get 6.5 hours of quality sleep than 8 hours of broken sleep. And there's actually some new research that recently came out where they looked at thousands of people in a retrospective cohort study. And they found that people who got 6 hours of sleep a night, that was regular sleep, consistent sleep, had actual longer lifespans than people who got 8 hours of interrupted sleep. So that shows that potentially we could, have a little bit less sleep than maybe we were told, but as long as we're getting it on a consistent basis, and the sleep is not very interrupted, that could potentially be, better. Personally, I find that my sweet spot for sleep is about 7.5 hours. It's funny because we talked earlier about the 8 hour myth. I tell you, I might sleep for 8 hours once every month or two. My body just doesn't produce 8 hours of sleep. And it's okay, because I feel really, really good on 7 hours. Maybe 7.5 is probably better, but I am in perimenopause, so I'm starting to see the sleep become a little bit more disrupted, which, is definitely quite common with women, in midlife. So
Yeah, I know, right? And for me, I always have to go up and get a pee at least
that's
3 times
fine.
in the middle of the night. I'm like, what's going on? I didn't drink that much water in the evening time, but I don't know, like my body's changing too. So it's like,
Yes.
it does. We have to go through like different cycles, I guess, but it's part of life, I guess.
Yes.
But what are the different stages of sleep? And then,
Yes.
yeah, if you could talk about that, would be great because I
Yeah.
always was
So,
like, confused about that.
yeah. So there are four stages. So stage one is right as you're kind of going to sleep. It's that transition phase. It's probably about 5 or 10 minutes. And then there's stage two, which is our light sleep. And that's about half of our night. Um, and then stage three is our deep sleep. And that's typically about 20% of our night. That's really the stage where we notice that we have more bodily repair. That's where our brain kind of does the cleansing. We have something called the lymphatic system in our brain. It's sort of like a car wash,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's sort of wringing out the toxins. And so you'll see human growth hormone be excreted during deep sleep. So that's a really reparative stage. And then REM sleep is about 25% of our sleep. And that is usually the time that we're dreaming, we're doing some emotional consolidation, or emotional repair, memory consolidation. So those are the stages of sleep. And then like we pretty much get most of our deep sleep in the first third of the night, and then most of our REM sleep in the second half of the night, generally. So that's why often when we wake up, we remember our dreams because we have just been awoken from our REM stage.
Wow, I know. Where do we go in our dreams? I feel like I'm going off into different places. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. Oh, this is pretty cool. Like I'm on these adventures. It's crazy dreams that I get, but they're fun. I used to have a lot of nightmares when I was drinking, but now
Oh,
my dreams are so much more fun and they're adventurous, and I feel like I'm in control of everything, and I don't die.
oh, good.
I get shot at, and it's crazy. Like it's weird. Like I'm in war. I mean, but it's kind of like a fun thing, like because I like adventurous stuff. But it's like someone would try to kill me, but they can't. I'm like, yeah, just I feel like in a video game or something. It's kind of cool. Anyway, and I remember my dreams a lot too.
Oh,
But back to the drinking though, because I was drinking heavily for many, many years, and of course, I wanted to make sure that I wanted to sleep. So what would I do? I would drink more. Thinking
right,
that's going to just help
right.
make me pass out or whatever. Now, can you actually explain a little bit how alcohol consumption affect our quality of sleep?
Yeah. So alcohol is the most commonly used sleep aid, and it does actually help us get to sleep a little sooner because we're sedated. However, our REM stage, which I just mentioned, is a very important stage. That first part of REM gets shut off really in the first part of the night. We do get a little bit more deep sleep, but then we have something called REM rebound. So that's sort of towards the end of the night. We kind of get more REM sleep, but our sleep becomes more fragmented. And you'll find that like that's kind of the time of the night that you start waking up the most, maybe having to pee, or it's just very disruptive. We also know that that alcohol can reduce our hormone secretion for growth hormone. It can also reduce melatonin production. It can increase the incidence of sleep apnea episodes by 25%. And it can also disrupt your circadian rhythm. So there's really not much benefit to alcohol for sleep. And they actually did a study showing that more than one drink for a woman at night could disrupt or could decrease her sleep quality by about 39%,
Oh, wow.
just by over one drink. And that's a lot of sleep quality to leave on the table, really.
Yeah.
So alcohol is definitely, not our friend. And now if people want to still enjoy alcohol, I would recommend that they have their drink earlier in the evening, like think happy hour, not nightcap. So 5 o'clock, versus 8, you'll notice a difference because you really want to give yourself a full 3 hours to process the alcohol before you go to sleep. You obviously want to hydrate after an alcoholic drink with water. So, it's just something that a lot of people don't quite understand. And as you get older, your body does process it a little bit differently, especially if you're a midlife woman. I know a lot of my clients and me also, we have noticed that our bodies just don't react well to alcohol like they did in their 30s. And at some point, women often just decide this isn't worth it. I'm just not going to drink because my sleep is, I really value my sleep and I want to ensure that it's as good as it can be every night. So they make the decision to stop drinking, which I think is great.
Yeah, sleep is way more important than anything. Like I was mentioning to you earlier that sleep is my medicine. I
Yeah.
remember well, so we have a queen size bed, my husband and I. And I'm the type of person who needs to like stretch. I need to stretch out and I have long arms, not so long legs, but my husband, he snores too. And I just feel like, I don't know, but I want a king size bed. Do you have any recommendations? This is just like my own personal question to you. Any recommendations of a good mattress that we can both get good rest on without
Well,
hurting?
I I definitely am the kind of person who invests what I can in my sleeping environment. And my husband and I decided a couple years ago to upgrade our bed to actually a California king
Yeah.
because we wanted a lot of space. Plus, we have a little dog who likes to kind of cuddle up with us.
No.
We went ahead and got something called an Essentia mattress. And it's, I think, probably the best mattress out there. It is quite pricey. That's the downside, but it actually is, it's organic and it's made with foam that is processed a little bit differently than some of the other foam mattresses. And the way that it doesn't heat up so much. A lot of foam mattresses are hot to sleep in, and the Essentia mattress is actually a little bit more cooling than most. Um, and it's super comfortable. So I did a lot of research and went with that one. I just feel like it's important that when we pick a mattress, we really try to go for the best we can afford, uh, potentially an organic mattress as well, because there are a lot of chemical compounds that could be released during our sleep while we're on the mattress, and that can definitely impact our sleep negatively. So it's just interesting because a lot of people, will spend many thousands of dollars on like a leather sofa, which is fine. But if you really think about the fact that you're spending like 7 to 8 hours potentially on a mattress every night, it just, to me personally, this is my bias, it just makes more sense to invest in something that could potentially make you more comfortable while you sleep and be safer as well.
Yeah, and less cranky in the morning.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, because I notice when people don't get rest, they're just not themselves. They're just cranky or forgetful, not attentive.
Yeah.
Sleep is very important. Are there any like powerful or free things everyone should be doing to improve their sleep?
Yeah, I have a few really powerful tips that anyone can do. They are no charge. So the first thing that I would do if I was trying to optimize my sleep is I would start to wake up at the same time every morning, even weekends. Okay. Your body doesn't know the difference between a weekday and a weekend. And the reason why I would do this is because when you have a very specific regular wake up time, it really strengthens your circadian rhythm and gets your whole system moving in accordance, as it should. So now, in the event that are out late one night at a party and it's the weekend and you're like, I really would like to sleep in, you can probably get away with about an extra hour of sleep. So sleeping in by like 1 hour. But any more than that, you might end up getting you might end up getting social jet lag, which is sort of like regular jet lag, except you haven't experienced the benefit of travel. Um, the second thing I would do for better sleep is I would go outside and get natural daylight as soon as possible after waking up without your sunglasses. That's really important. So when you are, again, another technique to help strengthen your circadian rhythm. So when you are outside and your eyes get exposed to the natural daylight, it triggers this signal in your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your circadian pacemaker. And what happens is any residual melatonin from the night before gets shut off. Your cortisol increases for more energy, your serotonin increases for better mood, and your melatonin production for that following night will get set up. So you only really need about 10 to 15 minutes of the natural daylight in the morning. So roughly about within an hour, after the sun rises. So as soon as you can. And then I would say the third tip that I would have is exercise. And exercise is good for so many different reasons, but I'm not sure how much people realize that it's great for sleep. They've done a meta-analysis of like 13 different studies showing that it improves deep sleep. So it also improves sleep efficiency, time to get to sleep, sleep quality, and sleep duration. And you actually don't need to go hard with your exercise for getting sleep. The studies have all shown that even just like moderate exercise, maybe 5 days a week for a half hour can be really, really beneficial for your sleep.
Yeah, I used to always like work out super hard and then try to go to sleep. That didn't work out so well.
Yeah,
But I noticed when my husband and I would go on a hikes in the day, we would sleep so well that evening and the rest of the night and wake up refreshed. But you're right about the
yeah,
sunlight. Yeah, when you're taking the walk in the morning time, when you wake up, if you do that, then take off your sunglasses. Don't stare at the sun, but just to have that natural sunlight. I hear that's so good for you. So
yes.
yeah,
It's all of those three tips I have found to be the most impactful for my clients when we're working on getting them better sleep and optimized.
yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, what advice do you have for our listeners who are actually struggling with sleep issues and then are considering to reduce their alcohol consumption to improve sleep quality?
Well, I would say follow those tips would be great. Also, getting on a regular schedule, not only with their sleep and wake, but also with meal timing is important. And just really the timing of the things that you do during the day, I think could be important for really, really strengthening your circadian rhythm. Um, Eating well, and there's not like a magic food for sleep. If there was, we'd know it by now. But generally speaking, the people that seem to be doing the best with their sleep are people who are following like a low glycemic diet. So that would mean like a high fiber diet, minimal processed foods. They've also shown that Mediterranean diets are good at giving better sleep quality. They've done several studies on that. So another thing about food, though, you want to make sure that you're not eating too close to bed. So you want to allow like 3 full hours between your last bite of food, like at dinner, and sleep, because your body is going to prioritize digesting over sleep. So you want to give it that really long stretch of time for your food to digest. Absolutely. Uh,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and if you are, as far as insomnia goes, I would say that, if you have acute insomnia, which is less than 3 months of insomnia, 3 months or less, yeah, I would probably not wait too much longer to reach out to somebody for help. Often acute insomnia does work itself out, like because it seems to be triggered most often by like a life situation. And if that situation resolves, then often people sleep will return to normal. But sometimes what can happen is the acute insomnia morphs into chronic insomnia, and which is definitely an issue. And what we have discovered is that if you've had insomnia for more than a year, it actually doubles your increase or your risk of getting depression. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So I would definitely say that if you are struggling with insomnia for a couple months, 3 months, don't wait years and years. I have clients who have literally struggled with insomnia for 10 to 20 years before reaching out to me. And that is way too long to be dealing with something that has a solution. And there unfortunately not a whole lot of sleep doctors per se, for the amount of people who have insomnia. I think uh, there's like a terrible ratio, 43,000 people who have insomnia for every sleep doctor.
Oh, wow.
which is outrageous to think. And like I said, a lot of primary care doctors aren't getting adequate training in sleep, and sometimes it's hard to get an appointment with a sleep doctor. Sleep coaches can be really valuable as far as helping people with getting better habits. Sleep coaches have different skill sets. I work really more with CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is really the most evidence-based treatment for insomnia. And there are other sleep coaches who, kind of work on more on the health realm. So there are many, many options, but you have to have to look around, and be patient sometimes if you can't find somebody who can see you right away, because there can be quite a waiting list for the doctors since there are not that many of them. So
Right.
it's probably easier to get an appointment with a sleep coach than a sleep doctor, honestly.
Yeah, one who's experienced insomnia, and has taken those sleep aids and didn't know that it didn't work for for her, like
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I know our listeners are inspired and they're like, you know what? I want to sleep finally. How can the listeners go ahead and contact you and find you on social media, your website?
Sure. My website is morganadamswellness.com. My Instagram is morganadams.wellness. I mentioned, I think before, I have a free mini course to help people with their morning and evening routines to get them started. And I also have something called a sleep clarity call, which is a free 20-minute call. If people want to reach out to me and share their struggle, I can provide, my take on the root cause and see if we can get a solution, for them.
Yes, and they'll be so much happier once they're getting the restful sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Morgan, for joining me on my show. Is there any last thoughts or words you would like to share?
Well, I would say that if you have been calling yourself a terrible sleeper, I would say the first thing to do is change your verbiage, really, and not use damning language about your sleep, and acknowledge the fact that you're having trouble sleeping, but use a little bit more gentler language, because the more we reinforce the fact that we're, quote, bad sleepers, I think the longer it takes for us to turn the ship around. So
Right.
words are powerful. So just choose your words wisely.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Morgan.
You're welcome.